Hey, what's good, beautiful people? It is your friendly neighborhood, Imah X. Welcome to the first official YouTube live of Riff, which stands for Reading is Effin' Fundamental. And that's a little bit of a double entendre because by that I mean reading as in, just the energy of just the written word and taking it in and all of the positive effects that that can have, but also just reading as in divination. It's something that's been largely demonized within Western society and culture for very religiositous reasons. And this is in no way it's to anyone's religion. However, certain things are just tools, and it's more so the energy and the intent behind it that is the important thing, as opposed to the tools themselves. And the energy and the intent behind this channel and these readings specifically is just to deliver messages from the divine, from your ancestors, from your spirit guides, the deities that in various energies and incarnations of the Most High that resonate with you, and anything that you just might need to know at this point in time for your highest and greatest good. That's what I aspire to. That's what I hope to help you guys cultivate within yourselves. So, yeah, let's go ahead and get started. I'm finna light an incense. Well, actually, before I go ahead and light an incense, I'm going to tell you guys about the crystals that we have to balance out this reading, and I'm going to shout out all the crystals that I use. First, I just keep a let's flip this camera real quick. I keep a citrine geode on my workspace just for the energy of clarity and also assistance with work. Here we have all my decks, and I also have a clear quartz tower on it just to make sure that the energy in between the various readings, stays clear. Essentially, all right, let's flip this camera back. And so that's one portion of the crystals that we are working with, and the others can be found here. So we generally have an amethyst for assistance with the channeling, just helping to clear up the crown chakra and let the information flow more smoothly. We have, since this is a root chakra, as you guys can see the red light over here, since this is a root chakra reading, we have a grounding crystal, and today we're working with lava stone, which is an excellent grounding crystal. I would say also highly recommend for fire signs, since it has a little bit of the fire and earth elements incorporated into it. And last but certainly not least, we have the Amazonite, which I just use to keep kind of my energy space clear of EMF, electromagnetic frequencies, as much as possible. Amazonite is an excellent stone for just kind of clearing that out. That's also another reason that I put them in my nose rings, which are available for purchase. Shameless plug, but I do a lot of different creations, and they're all intentional to cultivate just certain healing energies. So, yeah, I hope you guys enjoy. I've sold a few to some youngins out there, and I feel especially grateful and blessed for that, because we be on our phones a lot, we be on our technology a lot, and so just to have a crystal here to kind of add at least a somewhat of a layer of shield, I feel like can be a big importance. And I also have faux nose rings, just in case you don't legitimately have like a septum or regular piercing, but I do have ones for piercings. Like this one was actually for piercings, as you can see the Amazonite down there. But yeah, so you guys voted, and the response was that everybody kind of wanted to break today's energy off with the Moon Witch deck. So without further ado, we're going to get into that. And this is just kind of for whoever comes across it, whoever resonates with it. Oh, hold on, wait. Before I get started, now I'm going to light my incense. There we are. If I can just find it. It's around here. There it is. All right. Excellent. So, light this incense with the intention for clarity and wisdom for the space. And this is an oud incense, which just generally helps with concentration and meditative energies. Yeah, because I want to make sure that I get the good info for you guys. I don't want to be out here slacking. I want to get, you know, the most accurate information possible. So we're gonna use our tools, you know. Pardon me while I have a beverage sip. I'm experimenting with this for the reading just to see. I did a general last week, sans beverage, and so I want to see what the energies feel like, especially because this one is a root chakra reading, so it felt moderately appropriate, but I don't know. We'll see how it goes. Spirit didn't tell me not to do it. It just seems like one of those things. So once again, have the Moon Witched Oracle deck. Yeah. So, and it's appropriate. Hey, now I understand. Yeah, it's also appropriate because tonight is a new moon, so that's always like beautiful in terms of its resonance. It's a full moon. Excuse me. I am so sorry. As a full moon baby, that is disrespectful of me. No, it's a full moon. I had to look outside, and it was just like the moon isn't even risen, but somehow me looking outside was just like, fam, it's full. So yeah, without further ado, we're gonna get into, and we're gonna ask the Most High and your ancestors and your spirit guides to deliver any messages that are really needed for you right now, for whenever you come across this reading. Yeah, if anybody has any tips on fancy shuffling, hook a sister up. Okay, so the first card that we have that just wanted to pop out is Mirror, mirror, the beauty you see in me is a reflection of you. Okay. And we're going to do one more shuffle and then pull back 2 more cards. All right. So the first card we have is, once again, Mirror, mirror, the beauty you see in me is a reflection of you. Second card is Cast a circle. Healthy boundaries are necessary for growth. And Sun. Find a balance. Okay. So I didn't quite understand the message of the Mirror, mirror card until I pulled the other 2, which is why you pull more than one card. But what I'm getting from this, which is an excellent root chakra message, because root chakra very much deals with being and feeling grounded and all of that jazz, just being safe, And so what I'm getting as the general message here is that the mirror, mirror, the beauty I see in me, you see in me as a reflection of you, just speaks to when you are someone who is of a high frequency and of a high vibration, your tendency to see that version of people. Sometimes because it's the only version of themselves that they show to you, because they understand that that's your level. And so they don't want to ever come off as like underneath that. But also because that is the energy that you vibrate at, and so it's the energy that resonates for you within them. You can see it very clearly. However, a lot of times that's not necessarily the person's natural frequency. They're just kind of reaching up, and your energy is also helping them to kind of rise up to your vibrational level. And you'll find that a lot of times when you withdraw your energy, they kind of return to whatever their initial, frequency is. And that can have negative effects, because if you're pouring energy into a situation, hoping and to help someone to elevate to a higher level, if they can't maintain that energy when out of your presence, then it just becomes a situation where you are largely being siphoned. And it was just like 1111 on the count as I first started saying that. But you end up with an energy where you are largely being siphoned from, whenever they want to kind of get there and achieve that level. So you want to be mindful of healthy boundaries, because they are crucial for growth. Because as much as we would like to be able to constantly pour into people and help them, if they're not actually evolving, and thus they do not have the ability to pour back into you and to reciprocate the energy in a healthy way, then it just leads to you being drained and not having energy for the things that are essential to you for you to function and focus, and operate, in your highest and greatest good and your best interest. Because you give too much energy to someone and now you're in a bit of a funk and you don't have energy or inspiration to do what you need to do, because another person has just been kind of like dumping their energy onto you. And yeah, that can be a lot. And it's not the healthiest dynamic. And more so than it just being a lot for you, it actually doesn't help the individual. In a lot of ways it enables them and really causes them to kind of lean on you instead of trying to address and fix the issues themselves. So you become like a crutch in a certain sense, and kind of like inhibit their overall growth, because instead of learning the lessons appropriately for themselves, they're having you essentially do a lot of the work for them, and use your discernment on their behalf, and just a lot of different energies that aren't necessarily conducive to their reaching their highest pinnacle and being the best of themselves, which is overall the goal when you're helping somebody. It's not like it it should come from that place. It shouldn't be an egoic thing where you're trying to like cape and save for people for like your own like sense of self-satisfaction. So like as long as that's not the case, then like understanding that you do more good by having healthy boundaries helps the situation. It helps a lot. It helps you to not feel guilty. It helps you to not feel negatively about it. Let's see what we have on the bottom of the deck. Okay. So at the bottom of the deck, we have new moon, fresh start, new beginnings. And The third card that we have here is the Sun, Find a Balance. And I love this card because the way that the balance is kind of orchestrated. Well, actually, you know what? I'll get into the imagery of the cards in a second, and how that further ties into the message that I feel like we're receiving right now. But Sun, Find a Balance is just essentially like find a balance between your give and your receive, and make sure that the energetic dynamics that you're cultivating are ones where you are receiving as much as you're giving. And now it might not always be equal at equal points in time. There might be a day that you're in a funk and you might need a little more that day, or vice versa. Whoever you're interacting with might be in an energy space, but it should always, at the end of the interactions, it shouldn't be topics that you're revisiting multiple times without seeing growth or solutions or progress. It should not be situations where you are just not, being nourished. Because when you give love and give energy and concern from a genuine place, that is it is soul fulfilling. It is soul food. It is the primary energy of the universe. And so when that's kind of being taken for granted, yeah, it's just not a good vibe. It's not a good look. So yeah, you want to find a balance with that. You want to find a bit of a balance and walk that line. So, and that will lead to the bottom of the deck energy, which is new moon, fresh starts and new beginnings. Because once you find that balance, you will see so much more forward progress, because you will not be losing energy in engaging with situations that don't actively serve you. You'll either be spending that energy on cultivating yourself or in enriching dynamics that leave you feeling inspired at the end, and makes you want to get to work on your things so that you can continue to be at a high vibrational frequency and aligned with people who are out here also doing the work. And I don't mean work in a 9-to-5 capitalistic sense. I just mean the work as far as as Michael Jackson said, and mirror mirror, starting with the individual in the mirror and letting that be the starting point for change, for the change that you want to see in the world. Yeah, so to get into the symbolism of the cards, and it's funny because I actually have a Michael Jackson poster right up here. This also doubles as my music workspace, so I try to keep certain ancestors whose music I find inspiring just in proximity. Yeah, for inspirational purposes. So to get into the imagery of the cards, so as you can see here, though the speech is flipped, you see the mirror mirror, but as far as the message that I feel like we're getting today, you see that there's actually you, but then the reflection is hollow. So I feel like in reference to this specific message that's coming through, it's the good that you think that you are seeing in this individual or individuals, or just situations, circumstances, because your intent in the same circumstance would be something of a higher vibration. It might just be a little bit hollow. It might just be a little bit of a Diddy Mirage. I don't know if anybody remembers that commercial, but that commercial was always hilarious to me. And Diddy Mirage is something that has made it into my vocabulary as just a general euphemism for anything that is just insubstantial as this smoke. You can kind of see it, but it's not anything that you can grab or hold on to or build upon. So in terms of the imagery on the Cast a Circle card, the boundaries being necessary for healthy growth, it's like within the circle, you have a really interesting dynamic where you have flowers kind of encircling a dagger. And that's really interesting because, like, boundaries are equally as for other people's protection as your own. Because I don't know, if you're the type of individual where your ancestors do not play about you, then somebody, or like, the most high, you're out here actively living in your purpose and doing the work. If is to like get in the way of that, they will sow seeds of karma that will not necessarily be good for them, that they probably would not want to reap if they had a choice. So as much as the boundary is protecting the precious flower that is inside, it is also saving whatever is outside of the circle from the point of that blade. And that also fits in with our root chakra message, because root chakra once again revolves around safety, and you're divinely protected. As long as you are, living in your purpose, out here trying to be the best of yourself, not, seeking to harm anybody, or, just be on some nonsense for your own means, and like pursuing egoic pursuits. Like, as long as you're operating in the highest good from like a space of love, like, you are really divinely protected out here. So yeah, your boundaries are as much for other people's protection as your own, because yeah, you want them go play with something safe. Isn't that what the kids say these days? Yeah, they should go play with something safe. They're like, anybody barking on the outside of this circle, because all they see is because that's also the thing. The flower is all in color and fully seen, but the blade is just outlined, which kind of alludes to the fact that it is spiritual in nature, in terms of the way that we're reading the energy right now. Because that's the funny part. They can see the flowers, but they can't see the blade. So they knocking on the outside of the circle, thinking that the only thing waiting in there for them is flowers for them to, like, pluck the petals. However, they're going to be in for a rude awakening when they get inside this. So, as the kids say, play with something safe. I might add that as an under title to the root chakra red light special edition. Play with something safe. And not, the energy of this collective right now. And in terms of the sun, find a balance card. I think the balance is especially highlighted by the fact that even though this is the sun, you still see the overlapping outline of the crescent moon, which kind of gives like eclipse type of energy, but also just gives like a very, balanced dynamic as far as day and night, light and dark. And I also feel like it's about finding the balance in those polarities in general, just as far as cultivating, feelings of safety. Is the center point is usually the most stable in, whatever circumstance you are working from. So you want to be able to have the ability to tap into different dynamics, whatever, archetypes you need to draw up, which is why, you'll have different energies that resonate with you. But because we all are incredibly dynamic people, like, whether you want to take into account your astrology chart, and it's like, yeah, well, my moon sign is this, which is like, maybe a fire sign or something. And so, like, but then your sun sign is like water. And like, as much as those two energies operate independently, they also balance each other out. And the more data points that you have, the more accurately you can triangulate essentially what is your center, and understand that you are capable. Like, I liked a definition that I heard one time of responsibility as your ability to respond. And so, given that as the definition, uh, you're incredibly responsible because you are able to respond to any stimuli appropriately, because you are and were born with everything you need. And that's, speaking from, a dynamic where you're coming from a healed perspective, where you're operating not from, kind of a lack mindset when you've done the work, but it's a process, and like it's never really a finite endpoint. And so I don't necessarily want to feel like if you haven't done these things fully, because like what is fully? We're all just at kind of different stages in the journal, and in the journey. At different stages in the story. Journal completely slipped out that. Yeah, so we'll just take that. But we're all at different stages in the journal and in the journey. And that's okay and that's fine. But that's why it's important to have community, because it's important to be able to reach back and share tidbits that can help others. And that's also part of the balance, and that's also part of, the reciprocal dynamics that we are seeking to cultivate, where we're actually finding people who mirror us in a real tangible way, and not just in a hollow, see-through type of way. So I think we're gonna get some messages from the Rebel deck. I don't know. Do you guys? Are we feeling like one more set of messages from Moon Witch? I think Spirit is saying one more set of messages from Moon Witch. Yeah, there's a reason I was asking. All right. So, what else does the Moon Witch Oracle have to say about the energetic dynamic of the root chakra energy that we are seeking to incorporate? I'm gonna do one more shuffle. So I'm gonna do 2 card pull. All right. Actually, we'll do a 4 card pull, and we'll rock out with that. All right, so first card we have is Dark Moon. Pause and rest. You deserve it. And the second card that we have is First Quarter. It is time to commit. Third card we have is Yes, just go for it. And the fourth card we have is True North. Stay true to yourself. All right. This is actually a very beautiful message that I feel in terms of root chakra. I feel like the last message was in terms of safety, in terms of protecting your energy and just being intentional about the dynamics that you cultivate, and how your discernment is an aid to you keeping yourself safe, and also, keeping others safe, because, go play with something safe. But this pull, I think, is, well, no, I don't think, I know, is about your ability to cultivate abundance, which is another aspect of safety, because, if the chakras kind of on a certain level correspond with, like, the Maslow's like needs hierarchy, at the basis is like food, clothing, shelter, and a lot of those things, because of capitalism, are things that you need to go out and buy at this point in time, or at the very least barter for. So I feel like this part of the message is kind of a blueprint on how you can go about cultivating a certain degree of physical abundance. Okay, so let's get into this. First card we have is Dark Moon. Pause, rest, you deserve it. And what I get from that card is we tend to think that because of capitalism and because of, like, there's we don't even understand how programmed we are. We are programmed to think that abundance is directly proportionate to like the amount of like sweat that we put into it. But then when you actually look at the people who are wealthy, a lot of them haven't really sweated for it. So it's like a dynamic that is pushed on non-wealthy folks by kind of like wealthy folks to be like, pull yourself up by your bootstraps and like that type of deal. And to feel like you have to, you know, like, people be like, team no sleep, when you sleeping, that's when your opponent, and it's just like, yes, that's true in certain instances, maybe of like combat sports where you're directly training for, you know, a direct confrontation where physical endurance might be a thing. But even in that case, sleep is incredibly important because that's when your body does a lot of the recovery of your muscle fibers and so forth. So like that whole toxic anti-rest culture that we have is a little slavey. It's a little slavey. It just comes off a little slavey to me. And as a descendant of enslaved African royalty and whatnot, rest is revolutionary. I rest twice for all my ancestors who did not get to, who had to, you know, pick cotton from sun up to sundown under pain of like actual physical death and torture. So like, yeah, no, I'd lays my ass down. I will take a seat in a second. And that's not to say that I don't have work ethic, because like anybody who's ever seen me do anything understands the amount of passion, intent, and Taurus and Capricorn placements that I have, that like I, you know, pedal to the metal and, you know, nose to the grindstone when it's absolutely necessary. But I also, once again, going back to, you know, the last reading that we just did, it's about balance. And I, you know, this first quarter moon, I think speaks to that balance, because it says it is time to commit, but it's like you're committing to balance. It's time to commit to the balance of like resting, rejuvenating, pouring into yourself, but then also doing the work. It's time to commit to a balance of your feminine receiving energies and your masculine go-getterish energies, because both are necessary for abundance. We have been taught that we have to be very much like go out and get it and hunt and like, you know, kill it and bring it home. And it's like, yes, that is somewhat true. But, you know, if you were the type of, if you come from a lineage where you know, your ancestors grew up in spaces where, you know, trees just grew fruit and, you know, edible plants just kind of sprouted from the landscape, which was very much a thing before Western civilization, because you can see it in other parts of the world that are less developed, like where you can just walk into a jungle and feed yourself essentially and not necessarily have to worry about not being able to just sustain yourself. So I say that to say that the Most High and the universe provides infinitely, especially if you're walking your path and you are cultivating your true purpose. Like the Most High will incentivize that. They will definitely make ways and avenues available to you for you to do the things that you need to do and be supported and sustained, and not even like at a bare minimum level of supported and sustained, like, because we've been taught like that, like, oh, you know, like if you want to be pious, then you have to take like a vow of poverty and you can't ever have nice shit. And it's just like, no, once again, balance. You can have nice shit, but you should also give charitably and, you know, use your resources for the betterment of others. But that doesn't mean that you can't also use your resources to take care of yourself, because once again, you can't pour from an empty cup. I couldn't drink from that if it was empty. You can't pour from an empty cup. And you can't necessarily always count on the outside world to sustain you. So you have to be able to be self-sufficient. You have to be able to be a closed circuit energy system, like, you know, like how like the water cycle is like and then the water evaporates up into the cloud, and then like it rains down and it gets absorbed into the ground, and then like it evaporates back up, like that. And how like that's all the water that's on the planet. Like there's not new water being created. Literally all the water that's here is just the water that's been here. So like you need that to be the case with your energy, and in order for that to be the case, you can't have high degrees of, you know, energy leakages. And that can be born of, like, we're going to treat this like physics. So what are the ways in which, you know, a system loses energy within physics? Friction is a way that you lose energy. So you want to avoid interactions and situations that are just highly conflicting, which is why, you know, committing to balance is so important, because once you find that balance within yourself, it's so much harder to get you into a space of conflict with other people, because you realize that what they do has nothing, 9 times out of 10, to do with you, and is entirely about their own inner world. But you also understand that, like, who you are should be balanced and unshakable and centered in such a way that nothing from the outside world really like kind of rocks you or takes you off your square, or makes you tip to one side or the other, in terms of, you know, being too nice, giving too much, or being too cold, giving too little. It's about literally the center point. And that's important when it comes to cultivating abundance, because energy, money is the reason they're called it currency, because there's a certain current to it. And you have to be, it is an exchange. So you have to be putting, you know, money out. That's why like businesses are constantly reinvesting, like, you know, like people in business are constantly using their money to expand into different areas and arenas, because as long as you are, you know, putting money and that energy out into the universe, you are also clearing space for more to come in and to receive. So it's really just a bit of an energy dynamic as far as having a good balance of give and receive. Yes, just go for it. And I feel like that speaks to, once you get to a space of balance and you understand your true center, that is when a lot of times your purpose is revealed. And often our purposes can be very scary. They can be hella scary. Just in terms of the things that it might take to achieve them, the people that we have to become in order to gain and maintain them, the people, places, and things that we love that no longer serve us, that we'll have to leave behind, the judgments that we might face from the outside world until it starts taking off and people are looking at you kind of crazy, like, why would you decide to do this? And it's very easy to allow all of those things to slow you down, to discourage you, to kind of give you analysis paralysis in terms of like, well, should I do it? Well, shouldn't I do it? You know, I had that dynamic today as far as whether I should go live. And because I knew that this is like the inaugural video. So like right now there's like no thumbs up. There is nobody in here watching. And it would have been easier maybe to like go live on Instagram and get slightly more engagement, but that has less longevity in the future. And since I understand my purpose and I understand that this is a gift that I truly have, and I understand that this is something that I have been divinely guided to do, which means that it's going to just grow. Yeah, I just went for it, as everyone should when going after their ambitions, because at the end of the day, we never know the fruit that is going to be born by our actions. A lot of times when we take divine guidance, we can't see all of the things that it is aligning us to until we start to run into them. And it's like, oh, that's why, you told me to come out of the house at this time. My life has just been filled with so many moments like that. Like, oh, I get the inclination to go somewhere right at this time, and then I run into someone who I would have never seen, or I get the inclination to walk away that I don't normally walk. And then I like see like something really beautiful or having amazing synchronicity. And it's just beautiful. The things that can happen when you do just go for it, when you do listen to your intuition from a balanced place within yourself, because you have rested and recharged, and now you like come out ready to face the world. Yeah, I got to do something about this glare. There we go. But we come out ready to face the world. So yeah, you just want to go for it. And also, let's bring it back around. Bring it back around to the root chakra, because this is the red light special edition. Ooh, with the smoke and the red light right now. Like, this is the only shirt that I actually have right now that has red in it. And like, I was like, all right, I'm gonna wear a red shirt. And then I went into my closet and I was just like, oh, so like legitimately not a single red shirt. And I used to like, red used to be one of my colors. Like I had the Jordan 4s and the 19s and the black and red. So like I had a good amount of red in my wardrobe. And I guess, there's like a whole bunch of pink and earth tones. I have full yellow shirts, but no full red shirts. It's a really interesting dynamic, but enough of my fashion choices. Yeah, you should just go for it. Life is both too short and too long. And if you stay on this channel for any amount of time, you will probably hear me reiterate that phrase. And so I'm going to break it down this one time. And this is going to be the only time I break it down. And if anybody ever's like, what do you mean by too short and too long? I'm going to just be like, go back and watch my first video. So what I mean by too short and too long is it's too short in that you can look up at any point in time and things can be changed, be gone, be drastically different. People pre-COVID probably thought that a post-COVID world would never exist, and yet so many things have fundamentally changed about our reality just from that. People pass. You could look up and have intentions to make up with someone, and then, the next day they're just not there. And so it's too short in a sense of every moment should be cherished, valued, and dealt with in an intentional manner, so as to kind of cultivate the best lived experience that you possibly can. Yeah, it's too short. It's every moment should be cherished. Every moment you should be present. And that's another reason that, anxiety and depression as energy spaces are kind of toxic. And it's not just because of like, oh yes, like anxiety and depression, but it's also my OCD had an attack and I just evened everything out. But it's really, really nice. I wish you guys, I'll show you guys. I evened out the cards. And I even the crystals so they kind of like fall nicely. But I say all that to say that essentially you should, that classic trope, like live every moment like it's your last. Like, I'm saying, don't go to bed angry, don't hold grudges, because you never know what could be around the corner. Now, that's like the very wholesome, cheerful side. And the life's too long portion is just like, life is actually long while you're living it. As much as that, like, oh yes, it could all be fleeting and gone tomorrow, it could also last for 60 fucking years or something stupid like that. So like, why would you do a job when you might end up stuck there and it's something that you hate? Why would you be in a relationship that you hate when you could end up stuck there and now you just 10 years deep, just angry and resentful and just looking at this motherfucker, thinking of every true crime documentary you've ever watched on Netflix and being like, now I know I'm smarter than these other criminals. Like, I could off this motherfucker. Like, that, because, you know what I'm saying? Like, I know so many people, and this is no shade to anybody who watches this, because if you're the type of person who's gonna like, who I actually know who watches this, I'm probably not talking about you because you're probably evolved and high vibrational. But I know a lot of people who be out here settling. I know a lot of individuals who be out here settling for just whatever's clever. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, oh, you know what I'm saying? Like, just taking what they can get instead of being discerning, instead of honoring their true north and staying true to themselves. Instead of doing that, they be out here just taking whatever they can get. Shit don't even be working for them. Shit don't be adding to them in a positive way. It does not be in alignment. And they just be like, well, I didn't know if there was anything better. It's like, and I mean, no disrespect by this to my ancestors. And we have the type of dynamic where I've had these thoughts a lot and like they still bang with me. But it's just kind of like a lot of our ancestors, like, we ended up in spaces like, why did my people move to Philadelphia? Was it like a utopia? I don't think it was a fucking utopia. I think they just got there and was like, you know what? Good enough. And then they just hung out there for generations, and every generation came after and was just kind of like, I could leave, but good enough. And it was solid and it worked. It worked. I'm not begrudging the work that it did. I'm a couple generations deep in Philadelphia, which is excellent for how I feel about being a Philadelphian and my roots there. But also, I had to get and that's no disrespect to Philly. I love my hometown, but it's too cold there. It's cold. And as a brown person, I'm not really trying to be living nowhere where it's miserable for like 6 months of the year. It might be like between 50 and like negative degrees is for like 6 months. And if you think that I'm lying about 6 months, anywhere between October to freaking April, which is like, what's April? Like 10, 11, 12, 1, 2, 3, 4. That's 7 months. That's not even 6. You know what? I'll be nice and take October off the table and just say November through April. But it'd be cold is what I'm saying. And what I mean by that is just like, I had to follow my true north and stay true to myself and go somewhere where I actually wanted to live, and not just, and like, yes, go for it and not just settle with what is easy. Being an entrepreneur is hard. Working for yourself is hard. Not having a traditional 9-to-5 is hard. Trying to operate in a high vibrational state within a lot of business organizations is difficult. Like, whatever your path is, it is going to have challenges, and it is imperative that you stay balanced and stay true to yourself, because it's very easy to get lost in the sauce, or to get lost in what is easy, or to get caught up in just going with the flow, even when it goes against your principles, when it goes against what your heart chakra is saying for the purpose of your physical abundance. I feel like that's essentially the definition of like selling your soul, is when you do things that are against your soul alignment strictly for the purpose of, kind of worldly possessions and desires. And it don't gotta be like that, because like I don't know what y'all done heard, but the Most High pays well. Like the Most High creator, like, you know what I'm saying, that made, they pay well. You know what I'm saying? And I can't even, one day I'll do like a testimonial video and like really tell you guys about my journey and just all of the ways that I have been blessed and been allowed to bless others through that. But I'ma just chalk it up and say that like the Most High will make a way. The Most High will take care of your ancestors when you are out here breaking generational curses and like, you know what I'm saying, really being the Kobe of your bloodline. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like they will make sure that you are living lovely. And some people may see Kobe as a bad example because he passed, but like in a world where life is too short and too long and we all got to go at some point in time, there's something to be said for legacy. Because if you believe kind of the mode of thought that's like we kind of all chose our destinies and our bloodlines kind of before we got here, then like he had to have known that he was going to leave when he did, but he also knew that he was going to be Kobe before he did. And like I'm not even a big Kobe fan, anybody who knows me personally, but I have to respect the legacy. I have to respect the work ethic, even if I don't respect some of the individual foibles. But once again, that is the balance of humans. At the end of the day, we are all kind of both dark and light. And no one's going to have absolute appeal. They killed Jesus, and he was out here turning water to wine and healing people. And somebody still found a way to be mad at bulls. So when people find ways to be mad at things, you can't, you know what I'm saying? Nobody has universal appeal. I liken it to the episode of Recess, and shout out to Recess and shout out to Spinelli, my favorite Recess character. But yeah, there was an episode of Recess where like TJ was so used to being liked by everyone that a kid came to the school and he didn't like him. And it vexed TJ so hard, and he spent like the entire episode trying to get the kid to like him. And he was like, but why don't you like me? And the kid was just like, bro, I don't even know. I just don't like you. Like, I don't know. You just don't do it for me. And it took to the end of the episode for TJ to be okay with that and to just come to terms with like, yo, I'm fine with being liked by who I'm liked by. Everybody is not going to like me. That is unrealistic. So instead of trying to contort himself for the bull's approval, he just stayed true to himself and was fine with the people who liked him liking him, and was fine with the fact that this random new kid didn't let it vex him anymore. So shout out to like 90s cartoons for their dope ass messages sometimes. And let's go into the energy on the bottom of the deck, which is manifestation. What you seek is seeking you. A whole word, given that we are talking about physical abundance and so forth, because this is like a recipe. So if you make sure that you rest and commit to the balance within yourself, the balance on all levels of give and take, work and play, just the balance within yourself, and you go for the things that are for your highest and greatest good. And while you are doing that, if you stay true to yourself and stay aligned with your true north, then what you end up with is manifestation, and what you seek is seeking you. What card is this? It's like another balance one. It like called my eyes to it. I'm gonna seek it out. Let's see what it is. Last quarter, what is holding you back? Oh, and that brings us back to the root chakra. Yeah, because one of the negative shadows of the root chakra is fear, and 9 times out of 10, that's the only thing holding us back. We're scared to rest because we're scared that people are going to think we're lazy, or think that, like, if we do get something and we didn't break our freaking backs for it, that maybe we don't deserve it. Maybe we're just spoiled. Maybe we're just lucky. And it's like, no. What type of lack mentality is that? That's like, oh, I can only reap good things if I sow, like, blood, sweat, and tears. Like, no, some things get to be easy. Some things just get to come in abundance. As much as, like I said, as much as food needs to be cultivated, the first food that was ever on this planet, and mind you, all food that's on this planet was like, has been here since at least whenever it developed, and we've lost a lot of it. So that means that it's all the food on this planet. Nobody went around planting it. It just was growing wild at some point in time. So, like, the necessity of cultivation is a lot of times an illusion. What's holding you back? Fear that if you do come from a balanced space, that it's going to be a very similar thing, that people are going to say you don't deserve it. People are going to say that it came too easy. People are going to say that, because it's like, if you commit, you open yourself up to ridicule. If you just go for it, you open yourself up to the potentiality that it might not work out. Now, mind you, what you seek is seeking you, and what is for you will always be for you. So that's an illusion. You know what I'm saying? The idea that if you do this, you'll fail is an illusion. Now, are you necessarily going to knock it out of the park on your first attempt? No. But that isn't equated to failure. And we need to rethink what our standard for failure is within ourselves and within our society. Because a lot of times when within society, failure is viewed as, you didn't do it absolutely perfect on, like, the first attempt. And it's like, how many things are actually executed perfectly on the first attempt? Like, first time somebody tried to make a telephone, it was not a freaking telephone. The first time somebody, like, how many times we've all seen the video of the Wright brothers, and they're like various contraptions. It took them a bunch of times, and even the design that they stumbled upon isn't even like the final design that we use today, like, I'm saying, commercially. It's been refined and elevated. And so that is the process of success. Peace, God. Hey, thank you. Gratitude for coming and joining in. Yeah. The standard for success is not, oh, I hit it out of the park on the first attempt. The standard of success is, were you able to refine it? Were you able to persevere and get it to a workable point and model? Because if that's the case, then you did not fail. We live in a microwave culture, you know what I'm saying, where it's a lot of times very much like we expect instantaneous results and instantaneous success. And it's very easy to get caught in that mindset. Like, I could be highly discouraged because, like, only one person came on this live, and, like, It's got 1 thumbs up right now, but I could also be incredibly encouraged because one person came on this live and now it's got 1 thumbs up, whereas before it had 0. So it's about coming from a space of gratitude. And also, and this is one of the reasons why it's very sad that we as human beings are removed from the natural sowing, reaping, and growing process, because something about dealing with earth and its rhythm of seasons and its natural ebbs and flows is that you begin to understand that everything takes time, and everything takes the time that it takes, and different things take different amounts of time and different amounts of energy and cultivation. Like if you plant a watermelon seed, or if you plant a potato, like it's the rate of germination for both is going to be different. One might take longer to come to full maturity than the other. Now, I don't know specifically about the growing times of those two individual plants, and but even if I'm accurate and inaccurate, and those take the exact same amount of times, not everything takes the same amount of time. If you plant a tree, you plant an apple tree and you want it to bear fruit, it's going to take way longer than if you plant potatoes. So I say all that to say that our microwave culture, our go to the supermarket and just be able to grab whatever you want and eat it immediately culture, which, don't get me wrong, I appreciate in a lot of different ways, especially as a foodie and as a Taurus moon. But yeah, a lot of times what it does breed in us is a level of impatience for how long things may take that can make us short-sighted and can make us bail. A lot of times that's why people end up settling, is because they're like, wow, this is taking a long time for what I actually want to come around. So, I'm just going to take this that's available for now. And a lot of times that leads to stagnation, that leads to, not having the actual growth that you seek and that you set out for, because you didn't stay true to yourself. You got so far, you got past the, all of the other phases, but you didn't stay true to yourself and what, your heart and your soul were actually saying to you. And so you stopped one step shy of your manifestation and of your abundance. It's like, you guys have all seen that meme where it's like 2 people digging for diamonds, and like one stopped like right before like a super big diamond, like, I'm saying. And it's like, you never know how close you are to your breakthrough when you decide to give up and just, stop giving effort. So yeah, you never know how close you are to your breakthrough in those instances. But we're going to close it out because I've been on here for a little bit over an hour. And it's been a good hour, and I've loved interacting with your energies, even if you guys aren't here with me in the 3D. I'm reading somebody's energy right now. Some folks who are collectively aligned. So we're just going to close it out with a pull from the Rebel deck, because I love its irreverent nature. It's whereas the Moon Witch Oracle can be very like esoteric and like deep. Some of my ancestors definitely resonate with the Rebel deck, and the fact that it just be like, listen. Because like, y'all have to understand, I'm like the first like shanti, like deep spiritual. Like, I'm bringing this back for the bloodline. So like a lot of my ancestors be like, listen, I don't know, I'm not finna be telling you, and no, like the moon and the stars, like sometimes they just wanna tell me things. Ooh. Be fucking grateful. Shit could be so much worse. And that goes back to a lot of the things that we were just discussing. It goes back to a lot of the root chakra themes. It goes back to a lot of the root chakra themes, in terms of just how to best deal with your abundance and the energy space that is best for cultivating it. And just, you have much more to be grateful for than you think. You can be grateful for your divine protection, because it could be so much worse, like, of all the things that you have been through. Like, that funny phrase is like, but did you die? Like, you know what I'm saying? But honestly, but did you die? No. Like, so it clearly wasn't something that you couldn't handle. If you're sitting here watching this live, if you stumble across it whenever its incarnation, lends to, like, I'm saying, if it's in the years 3000 and you're coming across this, then gosh darn it, be freaking grateful, because I don't know what your year 3000 problems are, but like, somebody could have, like, you could have even less credits than you have. I don't know what, capitalism has turned this into. Hopefully, we've cultivated some sort of utopia where you guys are just kind of watching this to be like, oh, it used to be so sad in the dark ages. I hope that that's the case. But if you guys are watching in the year 3000 and it's just on some nonsense, then I would just say, yeah, be very grateful, because it could always be worse. And the fact that you are still here and still, in a space to seek wisdom and be in your highest alignment is wonderful, and it's a blessing. And it's always something to be grateful for. Yeah, like, I do gratitude rituals every day. Anytime I catch an angel number, I just take a moment to be grateful, because it just keeps you in an energy space of being more aware of the things that you have and the things that are going right for you, as opposed to dwelling on the things that you don't have and the things that, are going wrong, could potentially go wrong. Like, that's such a frequency that can monopolize your energy if you allow it to. And so, yeah, today's root chakra message is, we have two: play with something safe, and also just be fucking grateful for the things that you do have, because you are always divinely guided, you are always divinely protected, you are always exactly where you are supposed to be. Now, where you are supposed to be might be somewhere that's not necessarily ideal if you haven't been operating from the best of yourself and there's a lesson you need to learn. Or exactly where you're supposed to be might be right on the cusp of receiving everything you've ever hoped and dreamed for, because you have been being the best of yourself. So, it's not necessarily a thing that's linked to either polarity, but it is, you do have control over it, within the sense of, you can't control the stimuli that come your way. But once again, getting back to that definition of responsibility, all you can control is your response to it. And if you're coming from a grounded place, knowing that you are safe, knowing that you are divinely guided, then you don't really need to react in like a brolic, super kind of crazy way. Because you know that 9 times out of 10, your ancestors hit harder than you. The Most High hits harder than you. So, like, whatever the most imaginative get back you can think of is, trust that your ancestors are infinitely more petty and have more reach. Like, they can do things in the spirit realm, like, you know what I'm saying? Yeah, so it allows you to have a sense of peace and centeredness and stillness, to understand that you could if you had to, but that at a lot of points in time, it's not necessary to give that level of energy to the situation. And that because you're coming from a centered place, you're coming from a healed place, you're not being triggered into, like, knee-jerk reactions. You can truly just decide exactly how you want to approach the dynamic and be, super intentional with how you choose to do the things. So, yeah,
We are officially drawing to the end of our first Riff with Imah X, which is reading is effing fundamental. And I hope that you guys have found this to be enriching. It has been lovely to sit and converse with your higher selves and your ancestors. Like, y'all are a cool bunch. And the messages were flowing super smoothly. So, like, yeah, I appreciate the alignment and hope that whenever this finds you, it helps serve to connect you with your path and your purpose, and guide you towards divine alignment and your highest and greatest good. You know, whatever synchronicity led you to my channel. I am always accepting donations, and I'm also, you know, for at least the next couple of days. So if you catch this in real time, I am doing a $7 question reading special for the first 7 days of my tarot journey. And my phone is dying. But for the first 7 of my tarot journey, oh, not even tarot, my divination card reading for the public journey, I'm doing $7 question readings. So if you would like to participate in that, you can, you know, type your question below. You can send me a DM on any of my social networkings, which is at IMAHX, which is the same spelling as Riff with Imah X. So it'll be down there. It's also my Cash App, $Imah X, if you want to, you know, send your $7 for a reading, or if you just want to like send a donation because you found this to be super enriching. As I always said, I would be infinitely grateful, but it's not required. The Most High definitely makes ways and allows for me in other ways. So if you guys don't have it to spare, trust me, I have been there and I completely understand. So come and get this free game. Because as I said at the beginning of this reading, and as I'm going to say to close it out, the intent here is always for everyone's highest and greatest good, everyone's divine alignment, everyone to, you know, reach higher heights and aspire to be the best of themselves is all I ever want for anyone, for the collective, for the people in my community, for the people in the communities out there. Because like everybody being the best of themselves, from an energetic, you know, perspective, just leads to the vibration of the planet being higher and the more likelihood for other people to elevate within themselves. But from a just very layman's perspective, it just makes it like less dicks walking around, and like that's just pleasant when people aren't out here just sowing wild havoc because they're coming from healed spaces within themselves. Like that's very much a world that I would like to live in. It's one of the reasons why I do, you know, the healing work that I do. And if you're in the New Orleans area, please feel free to reach out to me, because I do energetic healing services. I do, you know, as I was saying before, I make the crystal jewelry. You can usually find me out and about at different marketplaces and stuff. But yeah, like I just endeavor to leave spaces, people, and all interactions better than I found them. So this has been your friendly neighborhood Imah X, and this is this week's Riff with Imah X, and we are signing off. If I can figure out how to sign off. There it is.